Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to let you decide. Do you think this R. Kelly case is going to be dismissed or not? I'm going to let you see a few videos and you decide. I personally think it's going to be dismissed and or he's going to be acquitted. And if his lawyer is smart, he will have it dismissed with prejudice so they can't bring this bullshit up no more.
Attorney says that he is maintaining his innocence.
Prosecutors are saying that you committed extortion, that you committed wire fraud and bank fraud in California. Did you try to extort Nike for millions of dollars?
No, and any suggestion is absolutely absurd. Nike knew from the very first moment that I had any contact with Nike that I was insisting that the truth about what Nike had done be disclosed to federal prosecutors and investigators.
What is the truth?
The truth is, for years, Nike and its executives have been funneling payments to amateur players, high school players, and to their handlers and family members in an effort to get them to go to colleges that were Nike colleges and ultimately, hopefully, to the NBA so they could sign a shoe deal with Nike.
But federal prosecutors...
Oh, so he just thought, hey, let me get some of that money. That's what I think. Fuck he talking about.
Prosecutors maintain a different version of the truth.
Avenatti was not acting as an attorney. A suit and tie doesn't mask the fact that, at its core, this was an old-fashioned shakedown.
They allege Michael Avenatti attempted to use his platform to blackmail the apparel giant. The complaint does suggest that you asked for up to $20 million, 1.5 for your client, and at least $20 million, and that you requested you be retained to do an internal investigation, and that if not you and they hired someone else, you stand to make more money.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the specifics of this, but what I will say is the way this has been framed is not accurate. It's just not accurate. And in fact, from the very first moment that we had any meeting with Nike, we made it clear that under no circumstances would we participate in anything that did not require full disclosure to investigators and the federal government.
What about the case in California? You've been charged with wire fraud, bank fraud. There were comments, in that complaint saying that you tried to embezzle, or you did embezzle, $1.6 million from a client you represented.
The client who is accusing me of embezzlement is currently on felony probation in California. You know what he was convicted of? Multiple counts of obtaining money under false pretenses. It turns out, and I didn't know this at the time, that he has an extensive criminal background and rap sheet associated with his conduct. So again, nowhere does that appear in the complaint. So there's going to be a lot of evidence. There's going to be a lot of facts that are going to come to light.
You're facing, if convicted on all of these charges, up to the rest of your life in prison. Are you nervous?
Well, of course I'm nervous.
Are you scared? Are you concerned? I mean, tell us, I guess, as someone who, again, has a history of representing people and now you're on the other side, facing some serious charges.
I am nervous. I'm concerned. I'm scared.
But you also seem confident.
I am confident because I believe the facts are on my side.
Joining me now with more on her interview is Jerika Duncan. So, Jerika, he said he's scared, he said he's nervous because he knows what he's facing. What was your biggest takeaway from this interview?
That Michael Avenatti is a fighter. I mean, this is the type of attitude we've seen before when it comes to when he was doing Stormy Daniels. He represents people involved in the R. Kelly situation there, the criminal, indictment. And in fact, allegedly turned over tape, right, to Cook County prosecutors. So this is someone that I'm not going to say he's not afraid of, obviously, the FBI. This is very serious. And then, again, he's on the other side of this. But he's willing to, as he noted, fight back and provide evidence that will clear his name.
Was there anything that you were not able to put in the interview that you can share with us?
I think all the good stuff we put in the interview.
Right, of course.
And it's interesting because a lot of times we don't have enough time, but in this case, this was sort of quick, and it was something that I think he was having, some thoughts about regarding whether or not he should even talk and speak out, but he did.
Yeah.
So this was not a very long interview, and I think there were parts where I read to him statements that were in the complaint that he allegedly said to attorneys who represent Nike.
Yeah.
And one of the paragraphs I read to him in which he talked about, this is how it's going to go down. This is him allegedly telling this to the Nike reps. It's going to be the Washington Post, the New York Times. I'm going to have a press conference. Your company, will die. Basically, what do you want to do here?
Yeah.
And when I asked him, do you recall saying that? He said, well, no, but I'm sure maybe I did say something like that. So, but his thing is, this is what attorneys do. We're aggressive. We're trying to fight for our clients.
Yeah.
He said that it is not uncommon for that attorney to say, hey, by the way, we want to be the ones to do an internal investigation. He said there have been cases before where it's played out that way. When I asked him what cases, he said, well, of course I can't disclose because of, agreements and non-disclosure agreements and whatnot. But we'll see what happens. He definitely seems like he has information that he's waiting to put out there that will clear him. But again, it's not just Nike. He's got financial issues with California, and he hasn't even been back to California since all of this happened.
Yeah.
He was arrested
Exactly.
Monday. He sat down with us Tuesday. He's probably got to go back home at some point and really kind of look through all of these allegations as it relates to California, the wire fraud and the bank fraud allegations.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the experts that I've seen talk about the two cases have said. The one here in New York with Nike, perhaps there's a little bit of wiggle room, and it looks like we saw a little window into what his defense might be. Mm-hmm. But the one in California is what, attorneys call a paper case, in that it's in black and white. It's about money in, money out, taxes paid, and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So that might be a tougher one for him to defend. But speaking of the Nike case, have we heard from Nike at all?
So Nike says that as soon as they got the idea that he was planning to extort the company, it immediately reported it along with the information that he shared to federal prosecutors. Mm-hmm. Nike said that it's been cooperating with an NCAA investigation for over a year. And then we also heard from the NCAA, which said, quote, always welcome any firsthand, credible, lawfully obtained, and disclosed information of NCAA rules violations. So, and you see the statement right there. It's still early. And I think, as I said,
because there is everything that Avenatti is alleging happened, which is perhaps something else that might be worth investigating.
Exactly.
Right?
It's funny that he'll honor his non-disclosure agreement with everything he said a few minutes ago. But if you go back and look at all 4 victims listed in his indictment, the new lady, Cynthia, I don't know how you say her name, Geronda, what's her name, Heather Williams, and the last one, of course, Rashonda.
Kelly's attorney is claiming that Michael Avenatti pressured Fox to file charges in this case. He's citing Avenatti's comments about R. Kelly that were allegedly recorded by the FBI. In January, Chicago's top prosecutor Kim Fox made a public call for R. Kelly accusers to contact her office.
Please come forward.
A month later, Michael Avenatti came forward saying that he was turning over a new tape allegedly showing Kelly sexually abusing a 14-year-old girl. In light of Avenatti's indictment and Fox's controversial connection to the Jussie Smollett case, R. Kelly attorney Steve Greenberg says the relationship between Fox and Avenatti needs to be more closely examined.
They got in bed with Avenatti, and Avenatti is toxic. Everything he touches seems to blow up, and that's what's going to happen here.
Greenberg cited Avenatti's recent federal indictment for allegedly attempting to extort millions from footwear and apparel giant Nike. Charging documents in the case say that the FBI recorded Avenatti talking about the case against R. Kelly, saying that 10% of it is actually going to be true. Greenberg said Avenatti's involvement has polluted the case against Kelly. Avenatti responded on Twitter today, saying in part, "The only thing that has polluted the R. Kelly case is Steve Greenberg and R. Kelly's never-ending expletive."
Man, if you don't get the fuck out of here with this bullshit.
Today, a Cook County judge did not rule on a motion to preserve communications to and from Avenatti to the state's attorney's office, witnesses, and their attorneys.
Especially where someone can just hit a button and delete it.
Because he wanted to review it. But the state's attorney's office says they already comply with requirements to preserve those records. Former federal and state prosecutor Stephen Block said that because Avenatti handed the alleged sex tape over to prosecutors, he could be considered a potential witness. If messages between Avenatti and Fox actually exist, Greenberg and the rest of Kelly's defense team should be able to get their hands on them.
As a defense attorney, it doesn't surprise me that he would go belt and suspenders, that he would file a motion to get before the judge, even if he knows that the state's aware of its obligations to preserve these materials and produce them.
And the state's attorney's office told me they had no comment because this matter involves pending litigation. Kelly was supposed to appear in court this morning, but Greenberg told the judge that he was sick. He's required to appear at his next hearing on May 7th. Live in the newsroom, Megan Hickey, CBS 2 News.
Well, so we filed a motion asking to preserve all communications with any witness, police, prosecutor, attorneys, and so forth. And then we learned something that I knew that Michael Avenatti was involved with some of the people in this case, but I think what the state said is he represents witnesses in each of the cases, which is just crazy to me. No, we didn't say that. No, she said that he represents people in each of the cases. That's what she said. We don't know. We know in 2 of the cases he represents people. We know that he was representing people before the grand jury. We know that he's not a licensed lawyer in Illinois, so that's the unauthorized practice of law. We know what he says about what he does. We know how he operates. And we know that what happened in this case was a result of his pressure and nothing else. Because I've seen the evidence so far. And they just don't do this. They don't bring back cases that were rejected 15 years ago. They don't indict cases without talking to witnesses and doing a thorough investigation. And that's what happened in this case. A rush to judgment, a rush to prosecute because of pressure, all polluted by Michael Avenatti.
Why wait until Avenatti is under scrutiny and Kim Fox is now on the plane? Why wait? It felt like they were conspiring together. Why are you doing all this?
I said the first night when I was at the police station that this was wrong, that they had rushed to judgment, that they had succumbed to pressure. That's what I said the first night before we'd been to court and we'd seen anything. Then we started to get the evidence. We got a little bit of the evidence, and we can see that there's all sorts of problems. We didn't wait. We didn't rush. Maybe if he didn't have these problems right away, we would have waited longer till we had more of the evidence. Maybe not. But we know that he's got these problems. When you get in bed with fleas, this is what happens.
So are you saying that Kim Fox, if I'm at home and I'm listening to you talk about this, and obviously everybody's not focusing on it, tell me what you think is wrong about this case and how it's charged.
What's wrong with this case is that there is no case. There's no new tape. Avenatti's full of it when he said there was a new tape. There are old cases that were rejected, and understand we're limited what we can say about the evidence by our rules here in Illinois, rules that he didn't feel constrained by because he's not a lawyer here in Illinois. But I've never heard of, in 33 years of doing this, I've never seen a case where it's rejected after a full investigation and then 15 plus years later without any reinvestigation, just because the sort of public perception has turned that it's charged. There is a case involving a young lady who wrote a book where she said, I lied to R. Kelly about how old I was. I came to his trial every day. You had to be 18 to get into that trial. She
That's Geronda Pace.
went with her mother. That if you see somebody with their mother and they're telling you they're 19 years old, mom doesn't say that's wrong. And there's problems with all of the cases. All the cases, they shouldn't have been brought. There's all this pressure. There was a so-called documentary which was really just a hatchet job that was done. And then they indicted these cases. And the problem is there was this call from the prosecutor. People call, let us know what happened. And so far, from what I can tell, the only people who called all of a sudden ended up with Michael Avenatti as their lawyer.
So Steve, are you saying that Michael Avenatti pressured Kim Fox to bring these cases?
Absolutely.
When you say
Are you saying that Kim Fox?
Can you talk about the today and why you want these emails and texts?
Sure, we've already seen that State's Attorney Fox has conversations with people about pending cases, pending investigations. I want to know what conversations she had with Avenatti about this case, about these facts, and what occurred. I think it's totally appropriate.
Fed him clients?
I'm alleging that it looks like she may have, yes.
Are you saying that that tape at the center of one of those indictments is the same one at the center of the child pornography trial?
I believe that is the exact same tape, yes. What I know.
Did I not tell y'all that was that same fucking tape? Did I not tell y'all? They don't listen.
What I know, look, think of me like a good reporter like you, Megan. I have my sources. You have your sources. I'm basing it on what my sources are telling me.
You have your concerns about the Justice Smollett situation and how that potentially could impact this trial.
I don't think that the Jussie Smollett situation is going to impact R. Kelly's trial. I think what it shows us is how this office operates. Or at least how some, I don't want to say, this office is full of great prosecutors, 99% of them. I think what we're talking about is the upper reaches.
Today you mentioned travel. Explain the logic behind it.
Well, because we don't have the information. We don't have another court date scheduled. If he needs to travel for concerts, that's going to be handled by Mr. Anton, and we'll let him deal with it. I have no idea. I think the chances of him traveling in a couple of weeks are probably zero at this point.
Avenatti has responded to what you're saying, and he tweeted out that he feels like R. Kelly's attorney is now trying to distract attention away from the clear guilt of his client by raising bogus arguments about he and Kim Fox. The evidence is the evidence, multiple witness tapes plus DNA. What's your response?
So the DNA that I've seen thus far is not new DNA tests. It's the same DNA information they had when they rejected these charges years ago. And I don't need to respond to Mr. Avenatti. Mr. Avenatti thinks that he is the truth. He is the oracle of truth. I think the federal prosecutors disagree in New York. He's entitled to presumption of innocence like anyone else, but they disagree. The tapes don't bear that out. The prosecutors in California disagree. When everything somebody touches is like this. What happened here is they got in bed with Avenatti, and Avenatti is toxic. Everything he touches seems to blow up, and that's what's going to happen here.
You said that
Well, we'll see what this stuff shows, but I think it's obvious. When he was coming in here, he was having press conferences. He was spending hours and hours meeting at the state's attorney's office. That some kind of influence was going on. He was having very public outcries to do something. You have to do something. I also have a problem with the fact that he was representing witnesses before the grand jury, and he is not licensed to practice in Illinois. That is the
stuff. This is not me, y'all. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career. Y'all trying to kill me. You killing me, man. This is not about music. I'm trying to have a relationship with my kids, and I can't do it. Y'all just don't want to believe the truth. You don't want to believe it.
At this point, we briefly pause the interview to give Kelly a moment. His publicist helped calm him down.
I hope this camera keep going.
No, we're gonna
This
let
is
the
not
camera keep
true.
rolling.
This is not, doesn't even make sense. Why would I hold all these women? Their mothers and fathers told me, we're gonna destroy your career.